Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, May 9th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, to get us started, the Abbot Orsini tells us that we celebrate Our Lady of Miracles in Mauriac in France. Now, this is a very interesting devotion. We are told that one evening around the year 507 A.D., Theodechilde, the daughter of the Moravian king Clovis, saw a great light in a nearby forest. She headed to that place and in time drew near to witness a gathering around a sacred stone. By the time she arrived on the scene, the only ones left were a statue of the Virgin Mary guarded by 2 stone lions. Right? This was clearly a sign that Mary was to take the place of the goddess Cybele, whose presence on earth was a sacred stone and was usually accompanied by 2 lions. Right? So the Princess Theodechilde let a chapel be built in that place, with stones taken from a pagan temple, and she also founded a Benedictine monastery to guard it, right? She ordered the nuns there to keep an eternal lamp burning before the miraculously appeared image, right? To this day, we're told that 2 stone lions guard the entrance of the church. One is the original, and the other was stolen and placed by a copy, right? So devotion to Our Lady of Miracles has been quite strong throughout the centuries. In particular, there's a very interesting devotion. We're told that Saint Dominic even spent 2 days at her feet. We're also told, that's very, very interesting, that there were 2 knights who were arrested and caught in their battle with the Muslims. I'm trying to find the story here. Yep. 2 Frenchmen were captured in the Orient and chained in a dungeon. When they implored Our Lady of Miracles for help, she transported them during the night in an instant to Mauriac. And we're told that you can still see their chains, their iron chains, as ex-votive offerings in the church. So, in addition to this, too, we are told, I think this is from Abbot Orsini as well, that they celebrate Madonna del Loreto in La Marche of Ancona, Italy, right? The chapel, which is the house of Our Lady in Nazareth, right? Where the mystery of the redemption was announced. As far as I can tell, there is something they celebrate on May 9th. I just don't know what it is. Her actual feast day is December 10th. In October 2019, Pope Francis restored to the Universal Roman calendar the Feast of Our Lady of Loreto, an optional memorial on December 10th. And 2 interesting facts. Because Our Lady of Loreto is the patroness of pilots and aviators, we're told that Charles Lindbergh had a Loreto statuette with him on his 1927 flight across the Atlantic, and that Apollo 8 carried a Loreto medallion on its 1968 flight to the moon. Interesting. Now we're also going to go to Madonna del Buon Consiglio, Our Lady of Good Counsel, in Frigento, Avellino, Italy, right? And this goes back to May 9th, 1920. Right? So there's a sanctuary in Via Piano della Croce dedicated to Our Lady of Good Counsel, which is constructed on the site where, on May 9th, 1920, a peasant, Carmine Capobianco, recovered a small statue of the Blessed Virgin Mary of Good Counsel. Right? We're told that Carmine had been having dreams where Our Lady invited him to go and to dig up this image. Right? This is very interesting, the event here. The parish pastor, Don Generoso Chulo, told the population throughout the town to come in procession to venerate the image, and that is what they did. The event was communicated even to the bishop of the diocese, Monsignor Giuseppe Padula, and he set up a commission to study the events. After 1 year, in May 1921, the bishop gave his approbation for the planning and the construction of a church in order to contain this precious gift, right? And he himself blessed the first stone that became the future sanctuary. We also go down to Guatemala, we have to cross the ocean there, where they celebrate La Virgen de Soledad in Antigua Zacatepeques, Guatemala. This is what we are told, is that the local carver, Pedro de Mendoza, who passed away in 1662, was trying to finish a statue of Most Holy Mary of Grief, which would be like Our Lady of Soledad. He ran out of paint the night before, so he just went to bed to sleep. And he woke up in the morning astonished to find that the statue had been completed without his work. In any case, Our Lady has a very beautiful, deep complexion to complement her very sad expression. So much so that when the statue was damaged in the 1976 earthquake, the restorers had trouble matching the color of her face, which is very, very special. And again, this is an image of La Virgen de la Soledad, which represents like the sorrowful mother of the crucified Jesus between Good Friday and Easter. Soledad literally means solitude or loneliness, right? She is Our Lady of Grief, as you could say, right? So they carry these things in procession. And why do we mention this today? Well, on May 9th, 1999, Próspero Penados del Barrio, the Archbishop of Guatemala City, consecrated the statue of our Most Holy Mary of Grief, you could say. And so it's a very beautiful image. So they recall this day of the consecration of the statue. Then, very quickly, we also celebrate Nuestra Señora de los Milagros, Our Lady of Miracles, in Santa Fe, Argentina. The painting sweated in 1636, I assume that's sweating blood, and was crowned 300 years later in 1936. We're also told that they celebrate Our Lady of Lourdes in Langsam Nantong Jiangsu in China. The church was completed in 1937, so that's what they celebrate. And lastly, they also celebrate Matka Boska Svetojanska, the St. John Mother of God in Krakow, Poland. The icon was crowned in 1965 by then Karol Wojtyła, the Metropolitan of Krakow. And so that's what we're celebrating today in the Marian world on May 9th. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we start meditation 62 entitled Mary and the Eucharist. We'll start off with a brief observation and then our first point entitled Mary's Gift. We do not know for certain what share Our Lady took in the institution of the Holy Eucharist. We do not even know whether she was in this upper room at all that evening, whether she received Holy Communion or not, together with the other apostles. We know how close are the links that unite Mary to the Holy Eucharist, and here we have Mary's gift. The Holy Eucharist is Mary's gift par excellence. Man absolutely needs God. By force of a natural instinct, he seeks God. And if he fails to find him, he shapes him with his hands, as did the poor pagans when manufacturing their idols. God granted us the grace of satisfying this need, first of all by means of the Incarnation, and then by means of the Eucharist. He came down from heaven to earth and became just like one of us, so that we could see him, know him, and love him. But this was not enough for his love. He wanted to give us more, and decided to humble himself to the point that we could touch him, eat him, be fed on him. And all this is not just for a few days or for a certain season, but forever. Through the Incarnation, he took a human body and dwelt amongst men, but only for a short time. He lived only in Palestine and only for about 33 years. How short a period for the whole of mankind. That is why he devised a way by which he can be with us all, every one of us, really present, closely united, through the most intimate and perfect union that can exist, which is that of assimilation, whereby the food becomes one with the eater. And this prodigy has been worked by him to last until the consummation of time. Therefore, the Holy Eucharist is a continued incarnation. It is the practical application of the Incarnation to each and every one of us. In this way, God satisfies that craving we have for him. And this gift of the Incarnation, by whom was it granted? By the Eternal Father, of course, it was the Eternal Father who donated this gift, but he did it through the ministry of Mary. It was she who gave it forth to the world. And if the Holy Eucharist is the continuation of the Incarnation, it is clear that the Eucharist is the continuation of the gift of Mary. She keeps on giving us Jesus daily, as she one day gave him to us in Bethlehem. Adam caused our ruin when eating the fruit given to him by the woman who you gave me to be my companion. She it was who offered me the fruit from the tree, and so I came to eat it. And so did Adam sin. We can equally say, Lord, the woman you gave us as mother has given us and keeps on giving to us the blessed fruit of her womb, Jesus. And therefore we live and are fed on him. For today's reading from the Admirable Heart of Mary by St. John Eudes, we continue with chapter 6, entitled Heart of Mary, Empire of the Divine Will. Finally, the adorable will dwelt in the Blessed Virgin's holy heart as in its own home, holding its keys as uncontested master. God's holy will dwelt there as in its kingdom, enjoying complete and sovereign sway. Mary's blessed heart was the triumphal car of the divine will, bearing a triumph over all its enemies. It was the heaven of the glory of God's eternal will, a paradise where everything was subject to its orders, nothing contrary to it, and all things were consecrated to its praise and worship. Mary's obedience to God's adorable will calls Mary to utter the divine fiat, more admirable in a way than the first fiat, whereby God created the universe. God's fiat created the world, but Mary's fiat was the occasion by which God became man, and man God. Saint Bernard says, "We were all created by God's eternal word, and behold we die. In your brief answer, namely fiat, we find a new being and are called back to life." "I dare affirm of the Blessed Virgin," writes St. Anselm, "what St. John has said of the eternal word, namely, that as nothing was made without him, so also nothing was made without her. The great God accomplishes more through the Blessed Virgin's fiat than through his own. Why? Because God's fiat was a fiat of command, whereas the Blessed Virgin's fiat was a fiat of obedience." What greater praise could be pronounced concerning the obedience to be the glorious mother of our Savior? How admirable! Nothing is made save through Mary's hands, says Saint Bernard, and God himself became man only after the admirable Virgin had said, fiat.
Hello, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our Marian podcast. In the spirit of Saint Bernard of Clairvaux, we say to you that there is no greater delight than to spread the devotion of Our Lady. We hope you share these sentiments and encourage you greatly to share with a loved one. Know that you are always in our prayers, and we ask that you keep us in yours. God bless.